Okay, just check I'm good to go. Looks like I am.
Yes.
Here we go. Right, so I'm Richard Hirstwood, and good morning, good day to you. And this is the second. Wow, big screen! Hooray! This is the second of my talks around sensory approaches for children. Last week we looked at multisensory learning, and really what multisensory learning was about and why we need multisensory learning. This week, I'm going to look at the fun side of it. And that is, why we need multisensory learning, but also where we can do it. And of course, in the middle or hopefully towards the end of a pandemic like we have now, home is the best place to do sensory. Saying that, it always has been. It always is a great place for a lot of our children to learn about their sensory system, because very often there are so many wonderful people at home who they are comfortable with. There are lots of experiences to be had. And a big thing for our children at home and home sensory is there are a lot of familiar things around. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And the other thing is I'm going to put in some what we call unique events. Unique events are things that your brain is looking for all the time that make you go, oh, that's interesting. Because that's when stimulation starts. That's when our brains get interested in sorting out the information that's coming through the receptors, the eyes, the ears, your sense of touch, your vestibular and proprioceptive system, in other words, your movement system. So it is all about the senses and at home. So let me give you 2 minutes about myself. If you sat on my talk last week, I'll apologize now. I'm going to say the same thing again. But I'm Richard Hirstwood. I'm based in the north of England in the UK. And at the moment, I'm sat in a studio at the top of my house, which we've turned into a training venue whilst everything is online. My background, I was a special effects man. I was a disc jockey. Wait a minute, how does that qualify me to talk about sensory? Well, over 30 years ago, I started a sensory business, a sensory company, and we would manufacture bubble tubes and projectors and fiber optics and all kinds of things for sensory rooms. I was selling into schools, I was selling into day services, places like that. But to me, people were buying sensory equipment. What is sensory equipment? There you go. They were buying all sorts of things without a good rationale as to why you buy it. You know, we look at something, we think, oh, that's really nice, we'll get that. But I wanted to know why. So I sold the company and I went into research and training. And for the last 20-something years, that's what I've been doing. Traveling around the world, looking at multi-sensory approaches, mainly with children and young adults, mainly working with complex needs, profound multiple learning disabilities, and of course, over the last 15 years, our awareness of autism has got a whole lot bigger. So let's start to look at sensory at home. I'll share my screen with a presentation and then we'll get going. Just got to make sure let's have a look. Wait a minute. Right, they haven't switched on screen sharing, so I can't share my screen at the moment, which is really not good news because I could have done with this. Wait a minute. Right, okay, can share this, could be the answer here. Oh, thank goodness for that. Don't worry, no panic, we're okay, I've done that, so we're in. Let's have a look. Which screen am I sharing right now? I just need to get this, turn that off there, and then go back to my screen share. Sorry about this, guys, I will get there, I promise. Just get me there, and share that screen. Okay, we should be looking at a presentation now, but I'm not sure you are. However, I'm just going to go with it. Let's have a look. You know, sensory at home can be so many different things. It doesn't have to, we don't have to have amazingly big sensory spaces. We really can just make little spaces, little parts of our lounge, little parts of outside, just anywhere you can turn it into a sensory space. So now, the first thing I want to just recap from last week is why. And I've got to say that, first of all, we're thinking about autism and we are thinking about complex needs. Now, just getting out of my share just for the moment, the difference. If you have a child who has autism, then the chances are the sensory system is working overtime. The sensory system is really working hard. And for many of our children who are autistic or who have autism, we have to teach them to modulate the information so that they can regulate how much vision comes through, how much sound comes through. It's a little bit like having a little light like this. So I might just have a little light like that, and that's okay. But for somebody who has autism, it may look like that lots of the time, way too bright. So we need to do sensory stimulation. We need to get the senses working because we're helping our children to regulate the amount of sensory information. When we're talking about complex needs, that's different because there we may have a visual impairment, we may have a hearing loss, there is obviously sometimes brain damage involved, and there we're trying to wake the sensory system. We're trying to get the receptors working with the brain to get the information in. So we've got to talk about basically unique events because we've got to get that sensory stimulation going. So what do I mean when I talk about unique events? Well, what I'm thinking about is just little things. Things that make our children just go, whoa, that's interesting. So it could be just something like that. Could be the thing that just gets our children looking at us. These glasses, absolutely fabulous. You look ridiculous when you wear these, but nevertheless, they are brilliant because one thing that your child's brain is programmed to look at is faces. Now, if you make your face different, then hang on a minute, this is going to be really interesting. And your face is really attractive. So sometimes looking at the face can be great. Of course, there can be limitations. I realize that. But glasses like this can be absolutely brilliant. These things have got something else. Movement. Your brain is interested in movement. When we're trying to get any sense working, movement is really going to help us. So if we're working with light, if it moves, that's going to help the child see it. So I can sit here like this and just talk to you without moving. And all of a sudden, my talk is so much more uninteresting. Whereas if in my usual style, I'm slightly animated, it makes it just a little bit more interesting. But the same applies to sound. Move sound around. Don't just let sound stay still. I'll be showing you some portable speakers a little later on that are really great just for getting that movement in sound going. When it comes to your body, we need to move. I'm not going to talk too much about vestibular and proprioception today, the movement senses, but I will talk about tactile. I'll talk about touch, you know. So, right, here we go. Let's just try sharing my screen again. So I'm onto there. Looks like that one, and that one. Sharing there. Hang on a sec. Did this one work this time? Let's have a look. So, let's have a look then. Autism, complex needs. Two different things for doing it. One thing about sensory stimulation at home, which is really great, is that if it's regular, we can do it again. We can do it again. We can do it again. Now, home is a great place to do this because you can repeat a lot. And what a lot of our children need is repetition. They need to do it again and again and again and again. Because if we can do it lots and lots of times, then the brain is a little bit like going for a run. The brain is going to get really, really interested because it starts to predict what's going on. It starts to understand what's coming next, all of those kind of things. So basically, home is a great place for working with sensory because it can be regular. It can happen again and again. Now, got to be honest, I'm watching the monitors here and I'm not sure that my PowerPoint is working. So just for the moment, I'm going to dump the PowerPoint and just keep talking to you. But I do have a lot to show you anyway. So let's have a look. The other thing I wanted to talk about, oh yes, absolutely, was that really, when we're working with our children, the first thing we need to do is consider what the needs are. Now, a lot of people will say to me, oh, I don't use lights because she is visually impaired, or I don't use music because he has a hearing loss, or we don't do touchy-feely things, tactile things, because he is tactile defensive. Well, for me, it's the opposite way around. It really is a case that if we have somebody who doesn't like being touched, if somebody is tactile defensive, then, whoa, we need to get in there with touch, but it needs to be really, really gentle. And your tactile sense is all over your body. It's not just your hands. If you've got a child with a visual impairment, and remember, children who have autism or who are autistic, they may be visually impaired as well. Then we need to get in there with the lights to get that visual stimulation going. So now let's think about this. Getting it right for the child is one thing. Now, the other thing is reuse equipment a lot of the time. If you find something that you think, oh, that's really good, use it again and use it again and use it again. Something like my little star here. This is lovely. And what I may use this for is just looking at fixation, just moving it across for tracking skills. I may move it up, I may move it down, I may bring it close, I may move it far away. That's called vergence and convergence. So we're getting the brain interested. Then we'll take it away. Then we'll do it again. So we'll bring it up and we'll put it to the left, we'll put it to the right, we'll move it to the top, we'll move it to the bottom. We may do that twice a day. We may do that 4 or 5 times a day. But if we do the same activity on a regular basis, our children kind of know that it's going to happen. They kind of know that, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I know what happens. That star appears right in front of my eyes. And, oh, yes, it's going to go left. Oh, we did that the last time. Oh, it's going to go right. Repetition is really, really very, very important. So developing a routine, that's a key factor when it comes to sensory work. If you're doing it in the morning, well, actually, the best thing to do is work out when your child, work out when they are at their best, when they are at their most receptive. For some of our children, that can be very short periods of time. Sensory work at home doesn't have to go on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. It really can be a case that it's going to be a really short period of time. It's going to be a little 5-minute session. Remember, some of our children take ages to get going. It may take them quite a while to really look or really begin to feel that sound. So let's just see if I can share again and get myself here. Share that screen there, and hopefully that is sharing. It's about, see if that's working. It doesn't look like it's working to me, but nevertheless, it's about vision, hearing, touch, taste, smell. It's about the whole of the sensory system. Now, I'm going to imagine that you might be able to see the presentation I've got up, but I'm not sure you can. One thing about sensory stuff, now I'm looking at lots of things around here. You see, I've got a little fiber optic here. And one thing about this is that we need to have good storage for these, right? Let me just take this off and take that off there. Things like this need to be available and accessible. So if your child, if you're thinking, oh, yep, looks like he's really alert at the moment, or it looks like he's in a really good mood, you need to be able to get that thing and work with that thing, you know? So where do we do it? Well, now there's a lot of places you can do it. Obviously, there's a few prerequisites for the spaces that we're going to use. Try to use spaces where there isn't a lot of visual clutter. If you look behind me, I've got this backdrop behind me, which is extremely cluttered. And do you know what? My little fiber optic here, that's really missed when it's against a background like that. However, if I change my background into something that is a lot more plain, now this is much more apparent. So we can see this so much better. So try to work somewhere where there isn't a lot of visual clutter. The other thing to do is to try to work somewhere where there isn't going to be a lot of sound interruptions. Sound interruptions can really, really mess things up for our children, because it may be that they're really focusing on this. They're just going to reach out and touch it. And oh, there's a big sound came from over there. And we get a startled response. Or our child begins to get very, very anxious. So try to work in places where there isn't going to be a lot of interruptions from that. Obviously, if you're working with things like this and a lot of the gadgets I'm going to show you, then a dark space is so, so much better. You can use all kinds of things to create dark spaces. On my YouTube channel, if you want to look at my YouTube channel, it's Richard Hirstwood, Hirstwood, Richard Hirstwood on YouTube. I've got some lovely video of blackout tents, which you can get all over the world. And they are beautiful for creating little sensory dark spaces, dark rooms. I'm going to show you a few other ideas for that as well. So try to get a space that is really dark. Try to get a space where lights like this are really going to be seen. So let's have a look. A few little bits of equipment before I just move on. Yes, a sensory room. Do you know, I've got so much video of what a sensory room looks like. Traditionally, we see sensory rooms as having bubble tubes and projectors. And here I've got some lovely, some really, really lovely fiber optics. These are fiber optics that I would use in a big sensory room. These fiber optics in the UK cost around £1,000. And do you know what? That's a lot of money. But the lovely thing is, fiber optics like this, I first put these into rooms 30 years ago, because I realized something, and I'm going to tell you a good way to do this, by the way. I realized something, and that is when we present light to a lot of our children want to touch it. They want to grasp it. So I needed to find something that was safe to touch, something that they could get hold of, that wasn't going to be full of electricity and certainly wasn't going to be hot. So I thought fiber optics a great idea. Those fiber optics are lovely, but as I say, they cost a lot of money. So why not use these, which are a lot more readily available? They may not be as big, they may not be as bright, but these have got all of the attributes that the big fiber optics have, that we have in sensory rooms. If anything, these are a little bit more tactile. They're a little bit more gentle. When you touch these, you get a lot of feedback. You get a lot of cause and effect. Cause and effect. I touch something, something happens. Now, our children will respond much more if they know they have control. If they know that them touching something can really, really make a difference. So when you touch this, it moves. When you touch it, you can see there, you get that visual feedback. So those are really nice. Now, most of the stuff I sourced from Amazon in the UK. In the UK, these are costing just a few pounds, a few dollars. They're really not a lot of money. And I do know that in a lot of countries, you can get these little fiber optic lamps. More recently, I found a different gadget, which is Superb. It's called now it's rather controversial. It's called a fiber optic whip. Now, these are really interesting. Again, these are I got these from Amazon, and it is thin plastic fiber optics. And if I turn it on there, you'll see it lights up. Now, these are fabulous things. They're really lovely. They're just as bright as the expensive fiber optics. These cost me about £35, and I can make these change color. So I can make them go green, I can make them go blue, I can make them go red. So basically any color I want. I'll try not to make them go green because I'm working on a green screen and everything disappears. But these are fabulous simply because I can touch it. I can just grab hold of it there. I can get the light really nice and close to the child. This will also do a lovely color change. So we'll just change color on its own. Now, color change can be really helpful. Just adjust my camera there. Color change can be really helpful because, again, this is bringing movement into the whole scenario. So just a little fiber optic whip like this. Again, they're available all over the world and safe to touch. No heat, no electricity. The way these work is the lamp is inside there, just in the end of that little flashlight, that little torch. And the light is just transported down these little fiber optic cables there. That means that if you touch these, they're going to be absolutely fine. It means that to a degree, if somebody puts it in their mouth, then try to obviously encourage them not to put them in their mouth, but that's one of the first places a lot of these things go. So if they do mouth them, they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. So fiber optics like that, I think, are fabulous for home sensory work. Now, there's lots and lots of different gadgets that we can actually get, that we can actually buy. But you know what? There's also a lot of fabulous things that we can make that are interesting, that are a lot cheaper. Won't be a second, just going for a gadget. Hang on. I am surrounded by gadgets here, and also my chair's getting in the way now. There we go. Right, got that. Wow, here you go. This is one a friend showed me a few weeks ago, and I got these. These are in the UK, little cardboard tubes. I'll let you guess what they are. These are cardboard tubes, and what we've done, we've put cling film just over the end of the cardboard tube. Okay, bit of cling film, and then some little pens, some little Sharpies, and just colour them in. You can see there, just colour it in at the end, and you're making a lovely little projector. Now, this works with your mobile phone, believe it or not. So if you get your mobile phone, and I'll just switch this one on. Oh, put my code in, won't be a second. Just get that to there, get my flashlight. And what you do, you basically put your light on your phone and then put that down the end. And then you can see I've got the light coming through the end. And what I'm getting there, and my green screen is slightly killing this, that's it. There you go. I've got a lovely little projector. So it's just a little cardboard tube, cling film, or Glad wrap, it's sometimes called in the Southern Hemisphere, and that will just make a gorgeous little projector. And you can have all sorts of different designs. So just with my little Sharpies, there you go, I've just put that one on. Let's just let the camera sort itself out. Just different colors there, which is fab. You can make it big, you can make it small. It's really, really nice. So just make your own with little cardboard tubes like that. It is so easy. I thought they may work with a torch or a flashlight. It doesn't. It works much better with a mobile phone. So give that a go. Now then, let's have a look. Other things. Now, there's something that I learned many years ago about working at home with sensory. and that is that the environment is really, really important. Now, I've got lots of videos, as I say, about tents and things like that on the YouTube channel, but one thing I want to show you today is something that is really, really simple, and that's this: umbrellas. Umbrellas make great little sensory spaces. They make amazing spaces. Let me just pop this one up here. And there we go. Now, in the United Kingdom, it's supposed to be bad luck if you put an umbrella up indoors. Oh, I'm doomed. But here you go. Here's a white umbrella. Now, with a white umbrella, or in fact, as you're going to see, lots of different colored umbrellas, you can do amazing things. With an umbrella like this, it's doing a few things. Now, the first thing is when you put it in front of a child, it gets rid of all of the peripheral vision. It gets rid of everything that's going on around the child, because basically it's just us inside here. So we're cutting out all of that peripheral visual information. In other words, we can just see what's going on. The other thing about an umbrella is that it cuts down the amount of sound clutter. The other thing it will do, it will also bring the sound closer to you. So let me tell you, when I'm having a conversation, if I have an umbrella, I can hear what somebody's saying so much better. Those of you who listened in last week or looked in last week will know that I do have a hearing loss. An umbrella really helps to enclose the sound. So I may use sound in an umbrella as well. But you know, the way that I'm really going to use this is with some nice colored lights. Let me just pop that onto there, pop that up there. And there you can see, I've got a fabulous little visual stimulation area here now. And again, my green screen is making it slightly weird. You know, I might just turn my, it's going to be a very disappointing background. I'm going to turn off my green screen. Hang on a second. And choose virtual background. And I'm just going to hear none. There you go. That's what I'm really stood against. Did that help? No, it didn't help at all, did it? Anyway, look, there you go. So you can see, yeah, that's better. I've basically got lovely, lovely, lovely lights that can get really nice and close to the learner, to the child. Now, the other thing about this is we can back project. So you can see the light through the other side. You can see the light through both sides, from that side or from that side, which is fabulous. So the other advantage, I'll talk about that in a moment, by the way, if you're wondering what that is. I'll let you into the secrets of that. White umbrellas are great because white basically reflects light. So if we're using colored lights, if we're using anything like that, then a white umbrella is going to be perfect for reflecting light. The other reason why I like to use umbrellas is because we can fold them away. Because at home, very often we have limited space, and if we can make our sensory room that big, that is really, really going to help us. But you know what? There's a lot more we can do with umbrellas. Here's a few I made earlier. You know, a lot of children, a lot of learners who have autism or who are autistic, they really, really love spinning. And last week I talked about why our learners love to spin. So I love to get umbrellas like this. This is a rainbow umbrella, and just spin that. For a lot of our learners who have autism or are autistic, they really, really love watching an umbrella spinning. Now, obviously, what we want our children who have autism or who are autistic, what we want them to look at is us, because we are wanting to get the communication going. So put an umbrella like this behind you, give it a spin, and the chances are they will suddenly become interested because that thing's spinning. They won't be interested in you, of course, they'll be interested in the umbrella, but make yourself interesting in front of the umbrella and then it'll work really very well. So umbrellas like that with lots of colour can be fantastic just to get that spin going. Really, really nice. Do you know, the trouble is, I could have just done a day on what you do with umbrellas because they are quite amazing. This is one that I use for visual stimulation. This is one that has fantastic colour contrast in it. So if I pop that up there, pop that to there, you can see I've got lovely black and white colour contrast there. Now, black and white, well, if it was yellow and black, it would be even better. But black and white is fabulous for visual stimulation, for getting our kids interested in really, really looking. Again, if I use one of my coloured lights on this, this will be absolutely fabulous. There we go. So I'll pop that on there, and you can see there, I get my coloured light just behind, and it's working away. If I want the light to be small, I move it closer. If I want it big, I move it further away. Again, because it's an umbrella, this one, we can just pack it down there, and away it goes. So sometimes high colour contrast might be more interesting for a lot of our children. If your child is in a wheelchair, then it may be an idea to get an umbrella. This one is designed to attach to a pram. So there, that one has got a little clamp on it, and we can clamp it on and then put the umbrella up, so we can just basically have the child sat underneath the umbrella. There's a few like that. Oh, this one. This is what I call a specialist subject umbrella. This one is a lightsaber umbrella. Never comes out well on video, doesn't this? But this has got a, yeah, you can't really see it. How annoying. But the shaft of this changes colour. So at the moment it's red, then it'll go green, which we don't want. Oh no, I've got my green screen off. You can't really see that, but this changes colour. So if we've got a child, a learner, who really loves things like that, wow, it's going to work tremendously well. Now, here's an idea. Let's make an umbrella specifically for home working and home sensory. This one is what I call a big production umbrella. This one is an umbrella which I made for sensory stimulation, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, in this umbrella, I've got fluorescent gloves, I've got fluorescent socks, I've got little bells hanging down from this. So I'm creating a wonderful little sensory space that isn't just vision, it's sound as well. So when you move the umbrella, you get that sound there. If I get myself an ultraviolet torch, something which I'm going to talk about later, but a UV torch. A UV torch is a torch that is purple, okay? And that will do, it will really make these little things like gloves and socks, it'll make them light up a lot. So if I am doing visual work, I can encourage the child to track the light from, pull it into camera, attract the light from one to another, back and back. I'll also put lights into these. So in this sock here, I have a battery pack, a little battery compartment, and there is a switch in here, which at the present time I can't find. Where on earth is it? There it is. No, it isn't. Hang on a second. Let me just find this switch. Hey, it appears to have disappeared. Thank you. There it is. And I can't get to it. And you know what? Normally, this umbrella's never let me down. I can't get the switch. Where's the switch? Ah, right. So my batteries have just fallen out. Oh, I don't believe it. What I've done, I've put the battery compartment in a sock. And the reason for that is because the battery compartments are quite heavy. So there we go. They're quite heavy. So if you put it in a sock, that means that you don't have to have the child playing with batteries or anything like that. But there you go. Phew, oh, it worked in the end. There you go, some lovely lights underneath a little umbrella there. These are great for a lot of our learners who need visual stimulation, who need just 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just really concentrated light. It doesn't have to flash. It can be just on. Obviously, if you get something that a light that flashes slowly, that can be really nice for just stimulating the brain. We could have the child laid down on the floor just underneath. You could throw a piece of material over the top of this to enclose the whole thing into a dark space. But again, and crucially for home, this means that you can just pop it down and you can store it away. Like I say, you could do ages of umbrellas. Now, if your child is one of those children who just loves to get into everything, then maybe a complex umbrella like that is not going to be the best thing. It may be just a little too complicated, may just be just a little too much. So how about one that's really simple? And this one is one that I made for a boy who loves space. He just thinks space is fabulous. And basically, I've got a little spaceman right there, and I've got a little planet right there. And this is an umbrella that I can sit with him, and we can just chat about the first man who landed on the moon in 1969. And this guy is actually called Neil, after Neil Armstrong. He actually he did get his foot bitten off a little while ago, which is a bit unfortunate, but nevertheless, as you can see, lovely, just a nice little brolly like that. And the last one before I move on, what time is it? Story umbrellas. I think story umbrellas are the best thing we can do for home sensory, because, you know, our kids, whatever their abilities, they really need to be read to. And it's something that I'm going to talk about in a few sessions' time, is sensory stories. But, you know, I'll be showing this. And this is a story brolly, a story umbrella, which I made. And this is a story that's very popular up here. And it's a story of the rainbow fish. And the story goes, a long way out in the deep blue sea, there lived a fish. Not just an ordinary fish. This was the most beautiful fish in the entire ocean. His scales were every shade of green and blue and purple, with sparkling silver scales among them. The other fish were amazed at his beauty, etc., etc., etc. You get the idea. Making a story umbrella can be absolutely fabulous, you know. These can really bring our home sensory stimulation to life. So it is really important that we get the environment wrong. Now, because I've decided not to use PowerPoint, I was going to show you a big thing about tents, because tents work in the same way as umbrellas. So be sure to check that out on YouTube, because I know that if you can get your hands on little tents, sensory outside can be absolutely brilliant fun. Right, couple of other ideas. Let me just clear my throat here. Won't be a second. I will take some questions at some point. I'm just going to have a look at Q&A, see if there's anything there. No, nothing at the moment. That's fine. That's lovely. Now, one thing about using little cheap sensory things like this. Now, this particular thing is called an ion party ball. It's made by that company there, Ion. But, you know, there's lots of things around like this. And this basically will just light up there, and it will put a light onto the back wall, and it's really cool. The nice thing about this particular one, and I'm just going to lose a bit of light, won't be a second. I'll just go and switch my lights out here. Yahoo, there you go. I can see that a bit better now. Now, the other thing about this is that it is sound operated. This in the UK cost about £10, and sound operated, that's brilliant. That means that we can create our own little sound to light wall, and it can be really big, or if you want, it can be really, really small. So here I've got an opaque tray, and if I take the tray, you can see I'll just point that onto the tray there, and I can move the whole thing, or I can move it closer, or I can move it further away. So when you're using lights like this, and as I say, there are lots and lots and lots of variations on this. I'll show you another. You see, once again, I got these. Put that one down there. I got that, and that's just a little LED light. But these are interesting because these work on your phone. So it comes with lots of little adapters, USB-C, Apple stuff, and a USB, micro USB, and it just plugs into your phone. So that goes, sorry, I did that a bit quickly. That slots into the bottom there. Once again, I got this from Amazon. But look on market stalls, look on places like that for little effects lights like this. So I'll just pop this in. And do you know what? This does exactly the same as the Ion party ball, but nevertheless, just reaching for a device there. Switch it on and turn on my little phone there. And then that automatically lights up. Okay, it didn't, but it should have done. USB-C, USB-C in. Why did that not light up? Anyway, normally it would have lit up. So, and it works every other time. But the way this presentation is going, I'm not surprised it didn't work. Nevertheless, little lights like that are great. And as we say, they're available all over the place. It isn't all about light. It can be about a lot of things. Sound is really important. When you're working with sound, it's important to try to use good quality sound if you can. When you're working with sound at home, little speakers are okay, but the better quality sound you've got, the easier it's going to be for our child to listen, to actually learn to track the sounds, to understand the frequency of sound, high frequency, low frequency. Use your voice. Let your children feel your voice. Get your voice really nice and close so that they can feel the resonance of the sound. If you're using music, obviously there may be favorite kinds of music that our children have, but vary the music. Think of music in terms of different frequencies, high frequencies, low frequencies. So try different genres of music and see if your children actually respond to a particular kind of music. I tend to use speakers which cost me around £50, £100, but sometimes I may be looking at more expensive ones. This is a Bose Revolve. This is a favorite of mine. And I have to say, the reason why it's a favorite of mine is it's very good sound quality. It hangs up, it is Bluetooth, it can be moved around so that our children can hear the sound going around. But it doesn't have to be an expensive speaker. You can do it with a cheap speaker. It will work absolutely fine. Okay. Couple of other visual things. Wait a minute. There is something I wanted to mention about home learning. And that is that little things like this are fabulous. But what happens a lot of time with a lot of our learners, a little thing like this, if they get hold of it, it's gone. It could get thrown across the room. And if that's the case, it might have not cost us a lot of money, but over the long term, buying these time after time after time after time, because it has been thrown, that can end up costing you a lot of money. So what I do is I use storage boxes. Well, let me show you an example. Here's a little light in a storage box. This is a little light that I use a lot for visual stimulation. But basically, I'll just light it up so you can see what it does. It's a variation on a theme that I've already shown you. And if I just start that there we go. Then you can see it's that kind of thing again. But what I've done with the box is I have actually drilled holes in the bottom of the box. This is a box from IKEA, and anybody who's in the United Arab Emirates, have a look on YouTube for the video we made in IKEA down at your place. It was great fun. We featured these. Now, if you drill holes in the bottom, use cable ties to cable tie your effects in. Can you see the cable ties there? And these days we use reusable cable ties. You may want to cable tie a lid onto the box. Now for this one, I've drilled a hole in the end as well. But you know what? That now is really, really safe. And for home use, it's going to make it easier to store, but also if it gets thrown, it's got a much better chance of surviving. Now that is a technique that I use with lots and lots and lots of different things. So here I've got this is a big box here. And what I've done, I've drilled holes in the bottom of the box, and then I've got some lovely lighting effects in there. Now from sensory companies, you would pay thousands of pounds for effects like this. But you know, I've got some things called sound to light bars. There we go, put those on, put that on there. And now when I talk, it lights up. It's a lovely sound to light effect. Now let me just, wait. There, put that on there. And I'll just show you what this does. Because now I've got an effect which doesn't just work with your voice, it works with touch as well. And I'm just tapping this really lightly. And we're getting lovely, lovely cause and effect from that. So things in boxes make a lot of sense because it means at home you can store things. It means that our children are not going to be exposed to wires, things like that, that could be a little bit dangerous for them. We all know the consequences if a child manages to get batteries out of things like this. And let's face it, a lot of them will give it a go because so many of our learners, especially children who have autism, are very inquisitive. You may need to cable tie the lid onto the box so that they can't actually get the lid off, you know, but that works really well. I'm going to show you one more thing and then I'll go on to take some questions. Last year, or was it this year? Ooh, I can't remember, but I was working with a little boy who loves spinning, really, really loves spinning. So what I did, I made him an amazing spinning gadget. And once again, I do have a video on YouTube all about this. Let me just get it. There we go. This is a salad spinner. Now, what I've done with this is I've got little lights and I've actually put them, grab that, get that, get that. I've actually put the little lights around the edge of this. I've wrapped them around. The battery compartment is in there. Well, let me just pop that down into there, pop the lid onto there. The key to this is having lights that have a remote control so that, there we go, there's the remote. A remote control so you can go, boom, like that. So now I've got the most amazing effect, which doesn't come out well on a Logitech camera, but have a look at that. Now, if I start to spin this, you start to see those lights moving. This is wonderful for cause and effect. This is brilliant for getting our learners who need to move, getting them focusing. One thing we know about kids, younger children and older people as well who have autism is that they will love things that spin. if they have control over the spinning, it's even more fun. This is a magical thing. And I've got a video on YouTube on how to make this because it wasn't too expensive. It is a totally transparent salad spinner. That's the key to this. Some lovely battery operated light. But you know what? When I made this, my wife, I made it on a Saturday afternoon, 7 o'clock Saturday night. I'm still sat there just watching this because this is absolutely fascinating. Absolutely love it. So a salad spinner, that's a magical bit of stuff. And I've had so many people being in touch with me, so many videos to say, oh, I made a salad spinner and it's been a brilliant success, because these are absolutely gorgeous things. They are lovely. So get the instructions for a salad spinner, because it is just a wonderful thing. And again, for home sensory, it is perfect. By the way, this one, you will, if your children have autism, you're definitely going to need to get the lid fixed on this. A cable tie, you can see just the red cable tie there. That cable tie will hold that lid down, and normally I have both sides because a lot of our kids do want to get stuck into that. So, quite a few gadgets, but do you know something? Our children like to have interesting things to look at. Our children's brains will get going, we'll get them into action, we'll help them regulate the sensory information if we use what we call unique events. Now, I'm just going to put the chat on the side. If anybody has any questions, now is the time to put them into chat, and I will I'll try and answer as much as I can. Now, the other thing to remember is that, you know, I can show you lots and lots. Oh, I must show you this. I must show you this. This is a gorgeous one, right? This just is just a little box. Hang on a minute. Just got to prepare this. Won't be a second. I love doing this one. Are you ready? So what I've got is just a little box here. Now then, what we'll do, we'll bring this towards the child and I'll say, you ready? There's something in the box. Are you ready? There's something in the box. Are you ready? There's something in the box. Let's have a look. And we'll open the box and a little mouse pops up. And we can just have a chat with our little mouse right there. And then, are you ready? He's going to sleep. Are you going to sleep? Good night. It's lovely. Just a little box with a hole in the bottom for your finger, a little finger puppet. There's my little mouse. He lives in there quite happily. And that's a lovely one for cause and effect, a lovely one for reveal. Now, I can talk about gadgets, I can talk about environments, I can talk about this forever. But the most important piece of sensory equipment at home is not a box like that. It's not a lovely fiber optic. It's not a gorgeous speaker. It's not a torch. It's not an amazing pair of glasses. It's not a lovely spinny thing like this. The most important piece of sensory equipment is you. You are the thing that is most responsive. You are the thing that is most interactive. You are the switch. You're the thing that is going to get your child learning about the world around them. But as Professor Paul Palliano from Cookstown University in Australia taught me many years ago, at home we need to create spaces where we can increase a stimulus, we can decrease a stimulus, we can use a stimulus in isolation, or we can use it in combination with something else. We need to be able to get control over the environment. So at home, if we use umbrellas, if we use torches, if we use dark rooms, if we use tents, being able to black out your windows at home can really, really help our learners focus on the sensory stimulus that we want them to. And in the main, the sensory stimulus we want them to focus on is you. If I'm honest, sometimes I will find that our children may not be aware of me. And what I may need to do is just make me a little bit brighter. So a little while ago, I had this delivered. And again, this may be something you can get hold of. See, mirrors. I haven't got a mirror handy, so I've got a special mirror here. Obviously, you'd expect that from me now, but a little mirror there can be absolutely fabulous. And I can just look at me on the screen. Look at that. But you know something? It may be that through a mirror, I can really, really get the attention of my children, especially if the mirror goes, ooh, like that. And there I can see my face in the mirror. So what I'm saying is, sometimes a mixture of technology and a mixture of amazing skills from you as parents is really important when we're creating sensory at home. So I could talk forever about this, and I'll apologize. My PowerPoint didn't work because my screen share wouldn't work. So basically we've winged it all the way through, but I hope it has been useful. I hope it's been helpful, because sensory at home is something that is very close to my heart, because to me, it is where the best sensory work really, really goes on. So think about your child first. What are the needs? Would you need to desensitize, or do you need to get the sensory stimulus working? Think about your environment. Do you need it darker? Do you need it softer? Do you need it more comfortable? And then think about the unique events that you can create, either with electronic stuff, which I'm good at, or just with lovely things you can get from market stalls, which can work extremely well. You can create wonderful sensory spaces at home, but remember, the most effective piece of sensory equipment is you. So I'm looking in the chat, absolutely no questions at all, not that there ever are. So I'll finish there and say, if anybody is still watching, thank you very much for watching this morning. And I hope you all have a good day. Next week, I'm playing with technology. I'm playing with iPads and Android devices, and we're going to look at how those can be really, really effective at home. So many thanks to Bright Start for inviting me to do this talk. I've had great fun preparing it and used none of it, but nevertheless, it's been absolutely fabulous fun this morning. I'm not sure whether to go back to bed or just get some breakfast. So thank you very much for listening. Richard Hirstwood from Hirstwood Training, hirstwood.com. Get on the YouTube channel, and I'll say goodbye for now. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you next week. Bye-bye.